After doing game jams for over 4 years, I've seen a lot of different games that have been developed in jams. One of the best parts of a game jam is seeing what everyone else has made and giving it a go yourself afterwards. Today, I'll be going over some of my personal favourites that have come out of the game jams at the University of Lincoln. It's the start of a new series I'll be doing where I'll showcase different games from game jams that I think are deserving of a shout out. Now the first game is Saucepan, developed by Pickle Chips. Joe never fails to make a brilliant game during a game jam, and Saucepan is one of my favourites in terms of how beautiful it looks and how good the gameplay feels. A simple 2D side-scroller, this game is incredibly well done. It only has a short tutorial level that only needs a minute or so to complete, and nothing happens when you die as there's no reset after death script, but Joe made this game work in solo in 24 hours. The result is a beautifully animated game with solid mechanics and is fun to play through the short level it's got. With further development, this game would be a big hit, and credit to Joe for making a game that just feels so good to play in such a short space of time. Next up is Flair Legacy by Callum Else. This is a ragdoll physics combat game made in the same jam as Saucepan, and like all good ragdoll physics games, it's just a laugh watching the ragdolls fly around in positions that are just painful to watch. The aim here is to wander into a cave and see how far you can get and how many zombies you can kill before being snapped in half and passing away yourself. I believe you also have random different weapons each time you start, which only further adds to the fun. At the time of this jam, I was president of the HEMA Society, and we had set different modifiers of our own that me and the rest of the HEMA committee were judging on. It was Flair Legacy that we picked as our top game for that, with Saucepan getting an honourable mention. We just loved the random weapons, and we also loved the fact that Callum took on the challenge of doing melee combat in such a short space of time and came out with such a hilarious result. The third game is called Dividing Building Orange, developed by Milky Mac and the rest of his team. Now these guys have made some great games in the past that have shown they're not afraid to take on a challenge at these jams. This game really shows this, as they chose to take on the difficult challenge of trying to make an RTS in 24 hours. RTS is already difficult enough, and to try and make one in 24 hours is nuts. What these guys finished with isn't a complete game, and some of the design choices are interesting and not that intuitive, but what I love about this is they were clearly tackling the time issue by trying to find different ways to save themselves time without losing too much functionality. They went way out of scope for the 24 hours to see how much they could accomplish in that time, and in all fairness to them, they made far more progress than I would have originally thought possible. As such, this is one of my favourite game jam games because it shows how much you can achieve in a game jam if you're willing to think outside the box, try new things and new ways of tackling issues. Our next game is one called Monastery. Now I'm pretty sure the guys behind this game had said they had never been to a game jam before, and Global Game Jam 2020 was their first time being at one. If that's the case, then these guys deserve a lot of credit for this game. You play as a monk trying to defend the church against invading demons trying to destroy the place. The controls do feel a little bit clunky and it feels a little rough to play, but overall the game does feel well polished and even has a lot of things a game jam game normally lacks, such as a main menu, credit scene, resets. Even for a game jam veteran, this game is pretty impressive, and to accomplish this at their first jam, these guys have done a really good job. I hope these guys continue to go to game jams, as I'd be excited to see what else they can produce in the future. Our fifth game, we're heading back to Pickle Chips for a game that frankly I would have paid good money for there and then. Mayhem at Newton's is a 2 to 4 player party game that is great fun to play. Each player gets their own side to the room, and the aim is to launch furniture at each other and be the last man standing. At the jam there was loads of us playing this game, and near the end it was by far the most fun I've ever had playing a game jam game. 4 of us gathered around one PC screaming at each other, trying to defend ourselves with lamps and paintings while beds were flying around the screen. There's only been 2 games that have come out of a game jam that I would pay money for in their current state without further development, and this is the first of them. Someone needs to yell over to Nintendo about this game coming out on Switch, because that would be all the reason I would need to buy one. Our final game for today is Terraria by Pickle Chips, though I'm not sure if Joe was involved with developing this one. I think it was the same guys who made Divided by Orange. Either way, Cyanide Panda and anyone else who helped in the development of this should be proud, as this is another brilliant party game. Along with Mayhem at Newton's, this is the only other game jam game that I would have paid money for at the end of the jam. This is a 2 to 4 player game with the aim to mine enough resources, sell them on, then purchase weaponry to try and kill the other players, all the while trying to survive the lava in the centre of the planet and avoiding the asteroids that come crashing down later in the game. Forget paying 60 quid for Doom Eternal or any other AAA game. Give me 4 controllers, 3 friends, and I'd spend hours playing both this and Mayhem at Newton's. Both these games are just fun to play, it's as simple as that, and the guys behind them deserve a solid pat on the back for these games. And that's my roundup for this video. There have been a lot of games over the last few years that I have liked the look of, but the ones shown here are some of my personal favourites. For me, a game doesn't need to be a finished masterpiece to be a good game jam game. It might have an interesting concept, have an interesting challenge, technical challenge, or it might have some redeeming feature. As much as having a finished complete game looks good, and it's what we normally strive for on our team, it's not the only way for a game to be a good game jam game. Anyway, all the games mentioned will have links in the description. If you have any games that you want me to check out or think that deserve a shout out, leave a link in the comments. Until next time, keep jamming.